Hello and welcome to Ukraine Today. In our newsroom, we're joined by the former Finance Minister and former Deputy Prime Minister of the Slovak Republic, Mr. Miklosh. Mr. Miklosh, welcome to Ukraine Today.
Good evening.
Mr. Miklosh, you are currently advising two Ukrainian ministers, Minister of Finance and Minister of Economy and Trade. And I would assume that your profound experience in conducting reforms in Slovakia and the Slovak Republic is something which the Ukrainian government is currently seeking from you. So what exactly are you counseling both ministers at?
Yeah. As you said, I am advising two key economic ministers and the most reform ministers. And because I did reforms in public finance, I did tax reform, and also I coordinated all economic reforms and economic policy in my country, in Slovakia. That's what I'm advising here, which means at the economy ministry, mostly economic strategy and coordination of the economic policy, and at the finance ministry, until now, mostly tax reform. We just worked very hard on the new proposal of the tax reform, and then also public finance reform, budgetary process, how to improve budgetary process, how to reduce public expenditures, and how to, recover public finance and to consolidate public finance.
The new government has been in power roughly for a year and a half, since the end of the Euromaidan revolution. And in the past months, there are a lot of discussions in the society that the ordinary people are not seeing the reforms, or are not feeling them, the reforms the way they would have wanted them to see. Well, obviously, apart from the new police, which everybody sees. What would you respond to these people?
Yeah. This is normal and usual that people are dissatisfied, also because people expected maybe quicker process, maybe also because too high expectations at the beginning, but also maybe also because not enough was done. Which means my opinion in this is that on one side it was done after Maidan, during last 1.5 year, more than during last 23 years from the breakdown of the communism and Soviet Union. Which means in this regard it was done a lot. On the other side, of course, it was possible to do more, which means this kind of partial dissatisfaction is objective. But what is another important point is that it was done really a lot of, but what is weak in the reform process is communication. It is, even what was done is not communicating, which means people don't know. And people also don't know why it is important. Because what is the problem here in Ukraine, but everywhere, that people support reforms on the general. Almost everybody agrees with reforms, with integration to the EU, but then to understanding what it means, in specific areas. What I think is missing, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but this is not sufficient enough, is stronger leadership, ownership and communication of reforms. If I speak about leadership, I mean strong conviction of the leaders that reforms are necessary, and to convince people about necessity of these reforms. Ownership of reforms means that Ukraine has to do reforms not because IMF is pushing, not because European Union or creditors are pushing, but because reforms are necessary precondition for better life for Ukrainians. And communication means that every day, especially in media and TV, politicians have to explain people what they are doing, why they are doing this, why it is necessary.
Continuing about the reforms, just recently the EU Commissioner on Enlargement and Neighboring Policy, Mr. Johannes Hahn, during his visit to Kyiv, told President Poroshenko that the EU is very impressed with the reforms, but they have to be expedited. In your opinion, what areas of reforms, of Ukrainian reforms, need improvement, need a kickoff?
We have prepared at the Ministry of Finance, I think really very good tax reform proposal. It is the best possible proposal in the current Ukrainian conditions. Then the weakest point in the Ukrainian situation is law enforcement and corruption. Of course, this is what is very well known, also people feel it, which means in this area it is necessary to have much more significant progress. Then I have mentioned tax reform. Then, of course, there are other reforms like based on deregulation, liberalization, and privatization. And this another important step was that we prepared at the Ministry of Economy, we prepared the economic strategy. The name is The Way to Prosperity, which is offering some comprehensive basic framework for how to do reforms, on which principles the reforms have to be built. And there are identified in this document, we also identified the weakest points, and there are, as I have mentioned, law enforcement, fighting against corruption, tax reform, public administration reform.
Yeah, it looks
because
like
you have
quite a few of the areas you need to be improved.
and then this is what I have mentioned: deregulation, liberalization, and privatization.
Mr. Miklosh, following the Euromaidan revolution, the Ukrainian government invited Ukrainian young professionals, especially those with Western education, to come and join the government. And a lot of them did. They were accepted at various positions with the government. And as the time passed, some of them started quitting their government jobs. Some of them with scandals, some of them quietly, but all of them were citing one and the same reason, that they don't see the will to go forward with the reform at the level of mid-level government officials. What they're saying basically that yes, there is a political will at the top, yes, there is a desire, a need for the reforms at the bottom, but then these mid-level government officials who have been in their posts, in their jobs for many, many years, they obviously don't want things to be changing, and they are slowing down or even outright sabotaging the reforms. Is this really present? Do you see this in the Ukrainian government?
Yes, I cannot say if this is the main problem, but yes. But this is why I have mentioned among these necessary reforms, I have mentioned public administration reform, which means you need to change not only ministers, but you need to change then also deputy ministers, and then the key position at the ministry. I changed my Ministry of Finance really radically. I reduced number of employees, I cancelled one level of management. But the key positions are director generals of department or sections. We had sections in my ministry. And these people have to be changed also. And I'm not saying that all of them, because you can do really kind of assessment of their ability and qualifications and so on. But this position, I agree that if these people are not changed, then it is very difficult to change the behavior of and functioning of the ministry. But this is in the hand of ministers, I think.
Why do you think this is not being done?
It has more reasons. I didn't mention one very big kind of shortage here, and this is unity of coalition. This is very, very important. I have to say, I was very surprised, very negatively surprised, when I learned that less than 50% during last more than half a year of the current government, less than 50% of government legislative proposals were passed in the parliament. And I know that there are more reasons, because MPs are saying that this legislation was bad, it was prepared in last moment, and they have pushed it, and so on. And government is saying that there is not sufficient unity in the parliament, but result is very bad, which means insufficient unity in the coalition for supporting necessary legislation. Which is one of the reasons of this, what you asked, could be that maybe it was not passed necessary legislation to unleash the hands of the ministers to do it, because you have, this old legislation couldn't give possibility even minister to do it. And I know that then another problem is that you have to have enough money to pay those people, because many of those who you have mentioned, these volunteers who came from the business, they came to work free of charge or by these really symbolic salaries which are in the public sector. It is unsustainable. What is necessary to do, what I did at my ministry, I reduced the number of employees, and I used this money for the less people, and I paid much better. Not all of them, but especially key people. For instance, directors general of the sections and departments, which means it is necessary to unleash the hands of the ministers, to give them possibility to do it, and to simply to have a rule of game to change the rules for to have much better, much more motivated, much better paid people, much more honest people working in the public. But firstly, what is the most important is will. is will and courage of the leaders, of the ministers to do it.
Well, it looks like there are still a lot of problems for the Ukrainian government and very little time to tackle them. Mr. Miklosh, many thanks for coming to us and talking to us. This was Volodymyr Solokhov for Ukraine Today, together with the former finance minister of the Slovak Republic, Mr. Miklosh. Thank you for watching us.